On we go. Yes, you go to class. Somebody gets bad grades.
Okay.
I don't know if you call that grading on the curve or not, but go ahead.
Okay. Well, I mean, it is kind of like grading on the curve, but yes, some of these teams had some questionable picks. I see one of the kickers on the board here.
All right, let's talk about the guys that I didn't think did well. Cleveland's got Deshaun Watson. Okay. No draft picks early. That was your draft pick, your quarterback who came back after the suspension and had good games and bad games, etc. So Cleveland next year will be a different team because Watson will have been in the program, in the system, and gone through the whole OTAs and preseason camp, whereas last year he was out of football. That being said, did they really address the deficiency defensively up front? They got stampeded, could not stop the run. But again, they didn't have high draft picks to go get the Jalen Carters of the world. So did they do enough by drafting some defensive linemen in later rounds? You can probably find guys who can fill up space, but do you find guys that are difference makers? So I didn't give Cleveland a high vote. Denver Broncos, they sat there till the 63rd pick because they didn't have them because they traded so much to Seattle. But what they've got is a Russell Wilson that's now rededicated himself under the guidance of the new head coach, Sean Payton. All their wide receivers are finally healthy. I would have thought that somewhere in there, they would have taken an offensive tackle or an offensive guard because they had so many injuries in the front, which complicated Russell Wilson's debut. But they didn't really do it. But again, they didn't draft till they got there, till late. Washington, I thought it's a strange way to do business. They just reached. They reached on their first round draft pick, a cornerback. They reached on their other draft pick, the second round choice. Another new quarterback in there. Poor Ron Rivera. I mean, he's dealing with so much adversity in the nation's capital because you got a substandard roster that he inherited. You've continued to have crisis after crisis at quarterback. And by the way, upstairs, you got the whole Daniel Snyder fiasco and the fact that he's now been removed, stepped away. He's gone to London, England. Franchise is about to be sold. They do have a really good defense. So we'll find out if the kid that they drafted at cornerback was a bit of a reach for them. And in terms of the 49ers, they sat there till the 87th pick drinking coffee.
Wow.
And then they drafted a kicker in the third round.
Really?
I don't know anybody that's drafted a kicker that high since dating back to the failures of the Arizona Cardinals the first couple of years when the old guy, Bill Bidwell, had moved the franchise there. And they took John Lee, a kicker from UCLA, unbelievable reach, and he didn't pan out. They took Jake Moody, really good kicker from the University of Michigan, but in the third round? Wow. I don't know anybody that ever does that. But they're deep. They got a lot of talent. Got to get everybody back healthy. Obviously, they've got this whole quarterback scenario there with Sam Darnold coming in the front door. Jimmy G is gone. They obviously have Brock Purdy, and now they're saying they're not going to trade Trey Lance. So we'll see what the roster looks like. But it's a very good team. There's no doubt about it, but didn't have much capital to use in the draft. So those are the guys I gave the D. And in my class, nobody got Fs yet.
Okay. So you're one of those nice professors that doesn't slam everyone. But now imagine if you're a Cleveland fan, you're in the dog pound there. Are you happy with what's going on? Are you happy that you have Deshaun Watson? Are you happy you had no draft picks? I mean, they got to be really frustrated.
Yeah, but understand, John, the history of Browns football from 1999 when they brought the franchise back. And I told you the story about they drafted Tim Couch at the top of the draft in 99, force-fed him, played him. He got destroyed because of injuries. And they've gone through, 23 quarterbacks, 23 different starting quarterbacks. Now they got Deshaun Watson. So, yeah, they're going to be happy. And they do have Myles Garrett, and they do have a really good young secondary. They got to find a way to keep those guys out of the hospital. They've had so many injuries to all these top draft picks at the back end on cornerback and safety. But I think the Browns are going to be good. And obviously they got Nick Chubb, heavy duty, big time back. If it were not for Derrick Henry in Tennessee, Nick Chubb would be viewed as the biggest, toughest dude running the football. But he's a really good player. But unfortunately, I think they've wasted at least 2 seasons in Nick Chubb's career because they've not been able to put good people around him.
Yeah, I always like that name, Nick Chubb, for like a running back, a heavy duty guy. But going back to kickers, I mean, didn't the Chargers draft Nate Kading?
Yeah, way back, but that was not a third round pick.
That was like sixth round or
Yeah.
something like
And he
that.
gave him a couple good years, and all of a sudden, in the playoffs, he just lost his ability to kick. And
Oh God.
they went on missions trying to find replacements, and they had Josh Lambo, who did well, and then freaked out on him, and they got rid of him after he was laughing in the locker room after a terrible playoff loss. And now they're renting kickers, and they've had a fair degree of success with the kickers have had. But nobody in modern day football, nobody spends a second round or a third round pick.
Well, when did the
on a
Raiders
kicker.
take Jankowski?
Well, that was the odd exception.
Okay.
I mean, they took Jankowski, and I think it was Shane Leckler might have been the same draft. I think it was in 2000. But Al Davis was off on another planet. He did what he wanted to do, didn't care what you said or I said or what anybody said.
Mm-hmm.
And Jankowski's probably had a Hall of Fame career there.
Yeah, but the exception to the rule.
Yeah, exception to the rule is going to do it his way, regardless of what you think or not. One other note.